the Masters builds, the Schwartz, the Longhorns,
Right.
All these new cars, all these other brands. When we go out and win with this car based out of Oregon, it's a real sense of accomplishment for all of us.
Sure.
Me as a driver set up, and Mike as a chassis builder, and a fabricator in his own mind. It's a real big accomplishment to go out and beat these cars that on a national level are top notch.
There's no doubt about that. That has got to feel good. And I like watching it. I do like seeing, and not just the fact that you're hometown guys. You're right here from the PNW, and these cars are successful, but I like seeing the David win. I like seeing the little guy jump up and say, hey, I'm going to punch you in the mouth and take this trophy from you. And so far, you guys have had a lot of success doing it.
Let's be honest here. Joey's not the type that's going to punch anybody in the mouth. He's just going to go down to California, take their lunch money, and come home.
And this is, Joey, this is what cracks me up. I love this. When you came out on the show last year and said, I'm going to go to the back and I'm going to show you the win from the front, I was like, dude, this guy's on a mission. I love that. The confidence that you have, I think, is as an athlete. I don't care if you're a race car driver or you play in the NFL or golf. You've got to have confidence in yourself. And that's one thing that fan bases will either love or they won't. Much like Earnhardt. Earnhardt said, hey, look, this is how you win. Watch. And he did it. People loved him or they didn't. Your fan base, when you show up at the track, I'm not trying to compare you to Earnhardt, but it's similar too. People either really, really like you, or they're kind of like, I hope he loses. But that's when you know you've got something.
Yeah.
That's when you know you've got something. And right now, I'm watching you. And there's 4 or 5 young names in the Northwest that I believe can race with anybody on the national level on these major series. You, Justin Duty, Colin, Bryson. You got some other young names coming up. Though I believe you guys could go back there and race with those guys. Justin showed that he's going to make the shows. Mm-hmm. There's no reason that, you guys right here in the Northwest has got so much untapped talent. I wish more people looked over here to put, drivers in major rides, because I think all of you guys would have a ride. I really do.
That's the thing, dude. And, when I was younger, when I was 19 and I was racing pavement, I had those offers for some truck deals and for some K&N and some ARCA. And Oregon is such a small market for any big league racing. It's very hard to get noticed. It's very hard to get your exposure out there. You have to travel a lot. You have to be willing to spend a lot of money. And then when I say a lot of money, I mean a lot of money.
You do. Well, racetracks are not like back east here. They're very spread out, very far apart. You might go, 6, 7, 8 hours between tracks. Mm-hmm. If you want to go from Medford to Skagit, you're looking at,
That's about a 10-hour drive.
Right. From here to Bakersfield, you guys travel 16 hours.
Yeah, it's a long drive.
That's the norm for us. We don't get in a car or get in a hauler and go 80 miles and there's 14 tracks in a radius. It just doesn't happen.
Right, and that's the thing, dude. There's so many. You said it. There's so much good talent out here, and I'm not speaking for myself. I'm just talking about whether it's Colin or Bryson, and I use those two because they're close friends of mine, but they're younger than I am, so I grew up watching them, and they race door to door with me. But those two in particular, Justin's always good. Justin's got opportunities coming his way, and he's going with it with him and his dad, and he's got opportunities, and that's what it is. It's all about opportunities and having the resources to do those things. And not everybody has that, but you look at Colin and Bryson, they're both very close in age young drivers that are just very good young drivers. They can win in anything. You can see Bryson's won in a sprint car. He does really good in a midget every time he runs it. He's won in a late model modified. Street stock, super sport, you name it. Colin, same thing. Anything you put him in, he's gonna shine. And it's, you obviously have that class of people across the country. It's, everybody knows that. There's probably thousands of like you say, young drivers here. There's thousands of them across the country, and it's, we all get to see it here. It's cool for me. I'm still young, but I feel like I'm getting old because I'm still watching these guys, and
you're watching these guys that are 6, 7, 8 years younger than you. Yeah. That, like you said, they were kids when you were watching them come up through the go-kart ranks. Now they're going door to door with you, and if it's not you winning, it's Bryson or Colin or vice versa. It's you guys are so talented. It matched equally in talent, and to watch you guys in good equipment go for it, fans love that. Now the older guys that are racing with you are getting a little frustrated with it.
they're sitting there and they're going, "Come on, kids, let's see what you're made out of." And you guys have shown that. Between you and Colin and Bryson, Justin Duty, all of those guys. just look at a couple of years ago, we had John Duty out there. We had Rob Maya, Trevor Glasser, Darren Koffel. Darren's still there.
Yep.
I mean, but those names, they're sitting back and they're like, okay, you've proven that you belong here. Now you just got to keep proving it.
Right.
And you took that year off. What, 2 seasons ago you took that year off.
Yep.
And you came back, and it was like watching a whole new Joey Tanner. And you're sitting there, you're continuing to put those laps in, continuing to show that you are a contender here at Willamette Speedway. And if not, you're not a contender.
Anywhere
you're
in
a
Lowe's.
favorite to win.
Right.
Yeah, and it all comes with time. It's funny people say that. I felt in my mind I've always been a contender, but more so now because I've gotten smarter with knowledge on race car setup, and that comes with putting in the time and effort. But if, like I said, if you don't have the resources to find out what these people are doing, you got to find it out on your own, and that's kind of what I've done. I haven't had a whole lot of help from back east. I've kind of just dug deep and just tried stuff and put my 2 cents together, took what I learned from asphalt, applied it to dirt, and kind of made a combination of the both, and it's worked out well. And that's probably the biggest thing when you guys talk about with the racing for me. I'm going to tell you right now, the setup part has really helped me as a driver become faster, better on a more consistent basis because I know what to do and when to do it.
Right. All great drivers, and this is a 100% pure truth. All great drivers understand how a race car works. If you're one of those guys like, I'll just say it, Cole Trickle, that jumps in a race car and has talent to drive, but you don't know what the car's doing, you're not going to win.
But here's the thing about Joey, though. He's also the go-to guy in the pit because a lot of these guys that he's
Coming
talking
to him
about
now.
are coming to him and asking him about setup. You got Gray, you got Justin.
I have watched one of his mentors, Steve Moore, come to Joey and say, Joey, this is what my car's doing. I've watched Joey say, change that shock, lower that bar. And what do? They go do what Joey says and they get faster. This is what I'm talking about. You have to understand, as a driver, you have to understand what's going on underneath your butt in that race car if you're going to be great. If you're going to win, you have to know what to do and win.
And obviously it differs with driving styles. But, sometimes I get mad at myself because it's just the guy that I am, the person that I am. I help everybody. I don't charge anybody. I help them. If they have a question, I'm going to give them the straight truth. I'm not going to lie to them to make them get worse or help me out, dude. I love helping out friends. And sometimes I give them too much. Sometimes I give them a little too much, and they get pretty fast, and it kind of bites me in the butt. But you know what? I like competition. I want to beat the best. I want to beat the guys that are on top of their game. I don't want to go out there and win a race knowing that I'm the only one that's kind of close in the ballpark. I want the competition. That's what makes it better for the fans and everybody.
And that's the only way to become a better driver is to be racing a good high-quality competition. So you can sit there and go, okay, I learned this much. I need to push myself. I need to keep pushing myself to be better. I mean, look at Corey, don't slap me. I said don't slap me. But look at Jimmy Johnson, 7-time NASCAR Monster Cup Energy champion. He kept pushing himself to be better. That's how he got to 7.
He got a lot of help with that stupid playoff system.
Yeah.
Don't even get me going on that crap. But you're right. What you're saying is right. Joey, knowing Joey and his personality and literally watching him grow up in a race car around us here in the Northwest, there's nobody. And I of all the drivers we know and all the drivers we talk to up and down the West Coast, wherever we go, I don't know a driver that is harder on themselves than you are. I mean, you're strive for perfection. You're one of those guys, and the way you approach the whole deal. I'll say this: I spent some time with a guy working on his race cars for a couple of years. Your approach and your thought process and the way you think about things reminds me a lot of Bob Jeffrey. Okay, Bob, very, very, very hard on himself as far as the strive for perfection. And when I say this, I'm talking about things like when I was on his crew, we had a 100-lap race. We did the 100-lap race back in Willamette, and we won. On the drive home, I'm talking about how great, the race was, how everything was the car was perfect, and Bob did a fantastic job of driving. You know what Bob says to me? He says, yeah, but lap 36, I screwed up. He goes, I almost lost it on lap 36, could have blown the whole thing. I said, what are you talking about? I didn't see you make any mistakes at all. Going back and watching the video, lap 36, he gets squirrely down the backstretch just a little bit. And I'm thinking, who counts laps? How do you know? There was no scoreboard back then.
Right.
How do you know on what lap you screwed up? And if that's the one thing that stuck out in your mind in 100 laps,
That's pretty good.
That's kind of what you approach things like that, though. Your thought process is, we can talk about all the great things, but I made a mistake right there, and I need to figure out how to fix that.
Well, that's what makes you better. I mean,
and I agree.
And it sometimes sometimes it takes the fun out of it for me because I put too much pressure on myself to go out and do things that I feel I should or the car is capable of doing, and sometimes it gets a little too much. But I've gotten better with that. But yeah, I mean, any good race car driver wants to be perfect.
But then there's those guys that take it to the next level, like you and Bob Jeffrey and Wayne Felch. They're just their minds are constantly thinking about, I've got to make that one little thing better. A lot of guys will focus on what they did right, what was good, and you're like, no, we got to fix that little thing right there. It's just the way it is. Your ability to hunt a racetrack. I mean, whether the racetrack is working good down low, the middle, or the high side on either end or on the straightaways. I mean, we've watched you do this the last few years. You've really developed the art of hunting a racetrack and figuring out where the racetrack works to your race car's advantage. And that is a skill that we don't see a lot of drivers develop for years and years and years, much later into their career. Where you're at right now, I think that you're really ahead of the game as a driver. And I'm excited to watch you in 2018, no matter where you unload. We'll see you at the Bud Nationals. We'll see you in Lebanon and probably Cottage Grove a few times. And it's going to be fun. But I think that just your whole approach and all the teams I've spent time with, your whole approach really reminds me of the Bob Jeffrey way of thinking and way of doing things.
Well, I take that as a major compliment. I appreciate it because Bob was, obviously he was the bar. He was beyond the bar.
For a long time.
Because he won pretty much everything there was to win for 4 years in a row. I mean, he
four-time champ.
Everything.
Yeah.
I mean, he was hard to beat. And when you get compared to him, I mean, yeah, we're at only little old Willamette Speedway in Lebanon, Oregon.
But there's a lot of talent in that race.
Bob Jeffries was very, very good, and he was almost untouchable. So, anytime I get compared to him, I'll take that as a compliment.
So while we're talking about that, as a kid growing up, who'd you watch? Who was the guy that you were like, that's who I want to be like?
I got to be honest with you. I watched Greg Walters. Me and Greg are really, really good friends.
Absolutely.
And, obviously go to his dad's race every year for the last 2 years, and I've won it. But when I grew up, I started going. My dad raced with the Walters family, so
you guys started racing together on the asphalt at Portland.
They raced together on the asphalt at Portland, and then when we switched to the dirt, my dad bought the Highwaller program, and we were with the Walters. And I just remembered because Greg and Bob Jeffries and Bob Boyd, those last 2 years that they had the sideboards,
yes.
I mean, it was close.
Yes.
And Jeffries did not dominate. Greg was right there, and Greg was a very aggressive, smart driver in a Rayburn, which they were all running Rayburns at the time.
Everybody won Rayburns.
But
yep.
I really liked the way Greg drive, and I paid a lot of attention to that, and that's one person that I actually paid attention to that I learned a lot from, and I'm not.
Well, Greg's a very, very talented driver, a multi-time champ himself. I mean,
Absolutely.
That's a pretty good talent to emulate. I mean, really.
And I could say I watched Bob Jeffries, but I didn't really, I was kind of clicked on to Greg. Greg and my brother Brad, who doesn't race anymore, but he was really good as well at Portland on the dirt. Between my brother and Greg Walters, I learned a lot about how to conduct yourself at a racetrack, how to maneuver through traffic, when to go, when not to go, and just watch the way they were able to methodically move through in past cars. Obviously start in the back every week because that's how the old style was. But Greg, I learned a lot from Greg.
Well, and that's methodically is a word that I would use to describe your driving style. One thing I think that where you really are really, really good when it comes to racing on the dirt is your ability to get the jump on the field on restarts. I watch you on the restarts, and it's like every time you pick off a car or two, and it's like, man, he makes it so easy. They're not even racing hard at that point. It's just getting on the throttle and picking it up where you do. It's the way you've got the restarts timed and dialed in. I mean, that's another skill that a lot of guys wish they had because they're just watching the car in front of them ready to go. I know you're not doing that. I know you're not watching the car ahead of you.
No.
You're looking at that flag in the flag stand. You're watching the front car. You're kind of seeing the whole thing, but your ability on the restarts is something that I think is probably won you a few races over the past couple years.
Absolutely, and that just comes with time. Honestly, I've been in a dirt late model since I was 15 years old. Now I'm 28, so I've had a lot of time. As still as my young age, I feel like I've almost been racing longer than Bryson's been alive. It's kind of weird
Yeah.
to say that. Not really, but I've been in the late model for a long time. You just learn, when to trail brake on a restart, when to let off the brake and go for it. Seeing an opening, taking it and going, and just and